So today we're going to take a look at the 4 Coactive model for player preparation as outlined by Fergus Connolly in his book Game Changer. If you're involved in sports at all or preparing athletes, whether amateur or professional, and you've not checked that book out, definitely do. It is, as it says on the cover, an absolute game changer. So Fergus Connolly. He's a big proponent of the 4 Coactive preparation model. So today we're going to look at what that means for player preparation. It's what we often see in amateurs and sometimes professionals is a massive emphasis on gameplay, players turning up just to want to play the game. Yeah, you want to get a ball in your hands or a ball at your feet, or if you're a boxer, you're going to get in the ring, put the gloves on. You always want to do that match play simulation, but there's so much to preparation for competition that involves things that get us better at match play and competition, and can we train those qualities? And a good way of breaking it down is to have a look at the 4 Coactive preparation model. So the 4 ones are tactical, technical, psychological and physical, and we can prepare all these things. These are developable things that a player can develop, improve upon, that will then transfer to being better in competition. All these things are just circling health as a priority. So sometimes, especially in performance-driven sports, we can often neglect health, and it's important that we do think about the health of an athlete, whether they are in high performance or amateur. Very important that we're making individuals under our tuition healthy, and we are concerned about our players' health and well-being as well as we are their performance. Okay, so if we break it down then into all those 4 quadrants and we have a little look at what it means to develop the technical side of someone's game, or what it means to develop and practice and prepare the technical side of the game. So these 2 things are interlinked, but tactically we're looking massively at a few things, and a lot of it is very game based, and it involves our athletes having high game IQs. If we just break down these 2 first, then looking at the awareness and cognitive ability of a player. So if you're a winger, for instance, in rugby league, your awareness of your position, whether in attack or defence, is going to be vital as to whether you can shut a player down and help, or you can find space and score points, or create a bit of pressure and ability to get into a match-winning position. So that awareness and that tactical awareness of where do I need to be in this scenario? Am I tactically aware that the team I'm playing in front of me right now is going to behave in a certain way, and that's going to influence my behaviours? So a lot of this is going to come from your skills-based coaches that are very skilled in that position, whether it's attack or defence coach. We're really looking at what's our individual's awareness and their tactical ability in games. Do they understand the positional play particularly well? What can we do in preparation in our training week to help improve our players' tactical awareness? Have they got the cognitive ability to be able to process that? Have they got a high game IQ? This is where you see players, take football for instance, a creative midfield player will have supreme awareness and tactical nous about exactly what ball to play at what time. Yeah, you take your half-back position in rugby league, these guys are very technically aware. They know and they understand the game to a higher level than much of their teammates, so they're very much involved in organising players and being very tactically aware. This is a skill you can improve, so even if your position in your sport doesn't have a huge amount of tactical awareness involved, you're still going to need it. Even if you're a defender, you're going to need to be tactically aware of where's my body position need to be at a certain time to make sure I'm in a good position and I can get the lead on my attacker. Yep. Get a couple of other things around that then is things we can train and trainables. This is where we look at a really interesting model like an OODA loop. So this is where a player is put into a position in training where they're having to use this. And you might not be aware as a player that that's what's happening, but we can as coaches put players in drills and activities that involve them using this OODA loop. So OODA loop just stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. So if I'm a player that's expressing good tactical awareness, my cognitive ability and my game IQ is high, I'm going to be going through this a lot without even thinking half the time because it's happening so quickly. So a good player is going to be able to observe, okay? Am I in a good position where I can see the field? Am I observing what's happening? Can I process that and then orient myself? Say, okay, I'm observing what's happening, now I'm putting myself into a certain position, and then I'm going to decide, well, what is it I need to do while I'm in this position? Yeah, decide that, and then it's act. Can you execute that? It's all very well seeing a gap or seeing a pass, but if you can't act and execute that, then you're going to be missing a huge part of it. So can we put drills in our preparation that are requiring players to be able to do that? Can they observe? Can they orient themselves? Can they make a good decision? And then can they execute and act upon that? Yeah. So if you think about agility, and we often see a lot of times people using agility ladders in training. Yeah, so yeah, we're building agility. Ladders are a footwork drill. There's nothing going on that's making you observe, orient, make a decision. Yeah, you're just moving your feet fast through a ladder. Yeah, a good agility drill is going to be one where the player now has to make a decision based on their environment. Yeah, cones, yeah, you can base decisions and give players cues to work around cones, but another player or reacting to a coach's whistle or action is going to be much more beneficial for preparation of this side of things. Yeah, so it's thinking about our reactive agility, putting players in drills where they're having to make decisions, and if that decision is based around how another athlete is moving, even better, because we're just simulating gameplay and we're really dialing in this OODA loop. Players are having to observe, they're having to orient, they're having to decide and then make good decisions. Yeah. So that's the tactical part of the 4 coactive model. So very much linked to that is the technical side of the model. So this is where we're looking at your core skills. Oftentimes this stuff gets practiced to death in sessions. And rightly so, because we need to 10,000 hours at this, don't we? We need to drill, get the core skills going. It might be catching, it might be passing or receiving the ball, whatever sport you might be involved in. If you're in a combat sport, it might be your jab cross, your skills, yeah, the fundamental core skills of whatever sport you're involved in is going to be the technical side of that. Okay, so not just the glamorous stuff as well, we might be practicing in defence as well, so maybe some tackle technique. If you're involved in a combat sport, just knowing where your feet position need to be, which part of our body are we putting into tackles. Same in say football, very similar. Can we practice these things as in similar in ways that how are we moving our body to get the desired outcome? Yeah. So tactical side of it, very much the understanding the sport itself and how it works. The technical side of it, what are the technical specific skill sets that we need to perform at a high level on competition day? If we don't practice this stuff, then it goes down by the wayside, doesn't it? Yep. So practicing this stuff in a training setting, brilliant. And then can we incorporate some of those technical skills into match play as well? So very easy sometimes to do the practicing of your catching and kicking in a non-stressed environment in training. Can we ramp up the stress a little bit to mimic competition by doing these things under fatigue as well? We're going to develop the skill a lot better when we're not tired. So when you are looking at the early development phases of this, especially in our younger athletes and our juniors, can we practice this without fatigue so we can really develop that well, get a core understanding of how it all works. And then as we've got the core skills down in a non-stressful environment, can we add more stress to that environment to really ramp up our ability to display those skills during match play? Okay, if we switch over to psychological this time then, really interesting part of training and often a very misunderstood or underutilised part of our preparation when it comes to preparing our athletes in the week for what's going to happen at the weekend or in competition. So if we start off with spirituality or spirit in this instance, this is where a lot of people might switch off, and the dinosaurs that are involved in sports often, it's all fluffy nonsense, this stuff, but the team spirit or spirituality or a person's ability to really believe in what they're doing is super, super important. If we take Amir Khan as an example, a real famous boxer from my generation, ridiculously skilled fighter, insane speed of the guy was insane. Go back and watch some of these clips online. But what really struck me about Amir Khan when he was talking about his confidence, it was getting in the ring against one of the most powerful punchers in the world at the time, someone that could clearly take Khan's head off, and Khan was known for having a glass chin, yet he was so confident in the interview. And I said, where does this confidence come from? And Amir Khan just said, I'm a devout Muslim, like I believe that Allah has my back. Yeah, and to think like, wow, that confidence that's given him to think, wow, whatever happens, I'm going to be okay because this guy's got my back. Similar thing in team sport. If you've got a good bond with your team and you believe they've got your back out on competition day, the confidence that instills on you, whatever happens, I'm going to be all right because I'm stood strong with my teammates. Whether that's a spiritual belief for some individual sports, that might be a belief in your team that's coaching you if you're in an individual sport. But that belief, whether it comes from a religious thing or being in a strong team environment, absolutely massive. So what can we do to develop that? You know, can we do things that improve upon team spirit? Good open communication might be one, you know, developing those bonds through adversity and training and competition. Yeah. Emotion is another one that comes into play when we're talking about psychological prep of our athletes and our ability to handle our emotions and deal with them, you know. So you get some players very volatile, very emotional, and can we dial in that emotion rather than take it off the table? Can we teach them to control it? Can we put them in situations in training where they're under high levels of stress, and can we complement and reinforce times where they've handled that stress? Yeah? Can we pull an athlete aside before the training session goes, and I want to see you apply that emotion, but can you do it in a controlled way? If you think you're going to lose your head, can you take yourself out of that position? Can you breathe? Can your teammates get around you, see that's happening and pull you back? Yeah, so it's super important that we at least open up the door for discussion about players handling their emotions. And it might be nerves as well. Nerves and anxiety are a huge part of sport and preparation, and it breaks my heart learning that players and athletes and juniors especially are dropping out of sports because they're experiencing anxiety or high levels of anxiety pre-game. Anxiety is not like a cold, it's not something you get and you wish you didn't have. We've all got a level of anxiety constantly, and it is a spectrum. And the only way we get better at dealing with anxiety is putting ourselves in situations where we're experiencing it, we get through it, we look back and realise, wow, I was quite anxious before that game, I was a little bit nervous, everything works out though, yeah? And even if it didn't and we lost the game, have I learned something, can I reapply that? Okay, I was a bit too nervous before the game and I dropped the ball. Next time I go out there, I know I need to control my nerves, work on my breathing. Next time I'm going to believe that I catch the ball. Can we improve? Can we deal with the anxiety rather than just saying, anxiety's beat me, I'm checking out, I'm not doing anything now that makes me anxious. And that's not a solution for me, yeah? So, that comes back to coaches as well. Can we guide our athletes through that? Can we talk to them about how the nerves feel and that everyone feels these nerves? It's not you that's special or you that's the only one experiencing this. Yeah, it's a spectrum and some players are going to feel them a lot more than others, but that's a part of the sport. And if we overcome those nerves or learn to deal with them, that's going to have a massive impact on the rest of our lives as well. Yeah. Okay, and another one to focus on is, nice little segue there, is focus. Our ability to maintain our focus and ability to execute, especially these technical sides of our core skills, towards the end of games when we're tired, in high pressure moments in games, are we switched on or are we switched off? Sports like tennis really highlight this. Long points, long lengthy games, up to 5 hours in finals sometimes, and little decisions and things happen in the game. We drop the ball or we drop a point or we put ourselves in a position by our mistake that we're no longer able to focus on what's right because we've lost it and we're losing the control of our emotion. Yeah, so can we do things in training that help our players focus? Yeah, can we put them under high levels of stress and really get them to dial in on what's important right now? Yeah, focus on my breathing, calm myself, center myself. What's the next thing I need to do and execute that? Can I focus in like a sniper on that one thing that matters and just execute that? Players going into a final, there's that Alex Ferguson quote of play the game and not the occasion? Can we focus on what our job is? If we win the moment, we win the game. If we're thinking about winning the game and Razzmatazz are lifting a trophy, we're not going to be focused on what it takes to win that particular moment. Can I win that tackle? Can I win that collision? Can I execute that pass? Am I focused on the job at hand? And the one specific thing that I need to do to win the game is to win that moment right now. And that takes a lot of focus and ability to practice and develop that is a skill that falls under that psychological preparation. So, and for me the most important bit, or the bit that I can influence the most, is that physical side of our preparation. So there's a few points here. Strength, absolutely massive. Yeah, if we can come across another player that's in a similar skill set to us, tactically, technically and psychologically, we can beat that player and compete to a higher standard than they are if we're a little stronger. Yeah, super easy now. There's so many gyms out there, some better than others. There's so many trainers out there, some better than others, that are really going to help develop this key physical quality here, strength. That's our ability to withstand injury, either not get injured, or if we do get injured, we can come back quicker. Yeah, it's low hanging fruit. We just get in the gym and move some heavy loads under supervision of a trainer where you can, with a good, well-structured program. Yeah, so strength, absolutely massive, and something we can train in the week. Speed. Speak to anyone who's played any game to a high standard, you'll soon realise that the thing that really stood out as a differentiating factor between a high level standard of play and a low one was the speed at which the gameplay was happening. Yeah, so not just necessarily the speed of the player that we're talking about here, but the speed of how can they pull off the techniques quickly, can they get into the right positions, are they aware, and is that awareness happening, going through the cognitive and going through the OODA loop, and bang, they're into that position quickly. Yeah, psychologically, are they quick to just throw away anger and refocus and reset? Yeah, so speed does retain all of this stuff, but on the physical side of things, can we move from point A to point B quickly? And these are two very, very trainable qualities. Yeah, if you do some speed training, you will get faster. If you do some strength training, you will get stronger. Yeah, and they're two huge things in most sports. If you can get a little bit stronger and a little bit quicker than your opponent, all of a sudden, instead of being competing with them, you're above. Yep. When we combine these two things, it's power. Yeah, if I can express strength quickly, I'm powerful. Yeah, you can be the strongest athlete in the gym and not do any speed work, no plyometrics, no jumping. We've all seen it. Super strong athlete, does no speed training. You get out onto the field of play, it's not usable strength. Yeah, usable strength, we need to combine it with speed and strength. We combine those two things, that's what power is. Yeah, the ability to move heavy stuff quickly in the gym. Yeah, so that's like our Olympic lifts, our heavy med ball work, our trap bar jumps, that sort of thing. That's going to be expressing power, but we can also work on the extremes as well. So a real heavy loaded back squat to develop our strength. And if we're doing that alongside our plyometrics, our speed, our jumps, and we're involving some of that stuff in the middle with the heavy trap bar jumps, we're getting stronger, we're getting quicker, we're developing power. Yeah. And that's very much misunderstood these days in the age that we're in. It's these random gym circuits, 100 wall balls, and everything's just a mismatch of everything. Yeah? To develop strength, we need at least 3 minutes recovery in between sets. 3 minutes recovery in between sets, not jump into 1 million wall balls or a kilometre run. Yeah? We need to recover. You compare 2, 3, maybe 4 exercises together, then take the recovery and then reboot back in. Yeah? This is how we try and develop strength. Yeah, and this happens at loads of 65% of 1 rep max and above. Yeah, so it's heavy loads relative to the athlete. Speed, we're looking here at ground contact time, so GCT is our ground contact time. A lot of people say that it's not a true plyometric if the ground contact time is not super low. Yeah, if you take a box jump, for instance, not technically a plyometric. Yeah, we're moving fast, but a plyometric involves us reacting to the ground. It's our hops, it's our jumps, it's our sprints, it's our speed drills. Yeah. Endurance or cardio, which has become a swear word in physical prep now, as we talk much about conditioning and hybrid training. A lot of it's bullshit. We need to develop endurance, and one of the best ways to do that is to use cardiovascular exercises. Yeah, clues in the name. If you want to develop your cardiovascular system, do some cardiovascular exercise. Running, swimming, cycling, rowing, all your classics are good areas to go to develop your endurance. So, yeah. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up, as much as we can talk about today anyway, the 4 Coactive preparation model. So hopefully that's given you a bit of insight into what's needed during the week for your preparation, and it might highlight some areas. Okay, can we have conversations with our athletes about this stuff? Also, can we have conversations and think about drills that include developing our players' ability on the tactical side of things, on the physical side of things? Are you going to get involved in a strength and conditioning coach to really help dial these qualities in and make sure we're doing it properly? And on the technical side of things, are we doing that in training, which a lot of clubs tend to really focus on a lot of this stuff, and then the other 3 qualities, we're leaving some performance gains on the table by not really thinking about preparing these areas. And oftentimes it doesn't take a huge amount of time, especially on this stuff, to really have an impact and dial in what we want to develop with our athletes.